Hello everyone, it's Walt again here with the Enlightened Life series. Today we are talking about purpose and really getting a strong sense of purpose and getting a stronger sense of happiness, a stronger sense of bliss, a stronger sense of life, really from living more in the present moment. Now you've probably heard this technique before, and you've probably heard kind of this idea of being in the present moment. I mean, I'm sure you have. Maybe you haven't actually heard the technique, but I'm sure you've heard that you should live in the present moment. People are always saying, today is a gift. That is why it is called the present. Oogway right there in Kung Fu Panda. You could say, this whole present moment thing, it comes from Buddhism, it comes from Taoism. It's just everywhere, okay? This is the idea that we should really live in the present moment. We should be happy and we should be centered in the present moment. But I'll tell you what, I bet that most people don't spend 10% of their time in the present moment. I think that most people may spend 5% or less of their time living in the present moment. Now, that may shock you to begin with, but let's kind of talk about it. Let's get to thinking about it. How often are you thinking about the past? How often are you thinking about the future? How often are you just living in the now, absorbing that feeling of how good things are right now? It's a question. It's really a good question because I don't think many of us spend a lot of time just focusing so much on right now. I'll say that I've spent a lot of my life really focusing on the future, and while that's really helped me in some ways, it's really been detrimental in many other ways. So living more in the present moment is a technique I've kind of stumbled across before and hadn't really thought much of, but it's something that's really started to help me more and more and more these days. And a lot of people end up thinking about the past, and they think about the past, about how guilty they feel about this, how this thing didn't go right for them, and this, and yada, yada, yada. And they feel so bad all the time because they're always just thinking about all these things in the past. How come I didn't do this perfectly? Why didn't this thing work out? And they're just absorbed in the past. A lot more people, I would think, just because of human nature and imagination, tend to think about the future. Oh, I'm going to be so happy when I'm rich. I'm going to be so happy when I have this new job, when I have this new position, when everything works out here, when I can do this, when I can do that. People are constantly thinking it'll be so nice when I have this beach house, even if they're like, it's some other beach house that's pretty nice. They're going to be like, it's going to be really nice when I'm at this bigger beach house. And they're constantly just taking themselves out of the joy of the present moment into the future. Now, besides that kind of reason, there's a bigger reason why you need to live in the present moment. We previously have talked about the love-fear dichotomy, but I want to explain it to you a little bit this way. Fear cannot attack you in the present moment very easily. Now, there are some exceptions to that, but most of the time, you cannot be attacked by fear in the present moment. Loving emotions and the love part of the fear-love dichotomy really comes from the present moment. Children really live in the present moment a lot of the time. Dogs really live in the present moment a lot of the time. A lot of kids and a lot of dogs are very happy for a reason because they're living in the present moment. Love and loving emotions just center around the now, center around how awesome things are right now. Now, this doesn't mean you can't use visioneering effectively and you can't kind of pull the future into the now with specific kind of techniques. And it doesn't mean you can't plan. You definitely can. Okay? And it doesn't mean you can't learn lessons from the past, because you can also learn lessons from the past. But the negative emotions can really get you when you overstretch yourself into the past or the future. So when you stretch yourself into the past or stretch yourself into the future, then you're getting attacked by perfectionism and fear. I mean, they're basically boiled down to just fear, but the perfectionism is really like the minion of fear. He kind of just appears like a demon and just goes after you. Or if you want to do like a Lord of the Rings analogy, he's like the ring wraiths working for Sauron there, being these kind of guys who will just ride up and attack you, and you can't deal with them until you actually deal with the big threat. And that's kind of what perfectionism really does. It just appears out of nowhere and gets you. And the reason he can do that is because when you start to stretch into the future, fear can attack you. It can say, this won't work out perfectly, this thing's going to go wrong, yada, yada, yada. You have to do it perfectly, otherwise it's all going to fall apart. And perfectionism really sets you up for failure. And when you go into the past, it's the same kind of thing with guilt. Guilt saying you should have done this, that's why you don't have this good thing now, that's why you're never going to have this good thing. Really, just fear of lack and fear of poverty are kind of the big source of so many of these emotions. If you go back to the 6 basic fear model out of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, you can really start to see why fear is really hitting the past and the future. Because these time periods are just, it's like you stretch yourself out into imagine it like this. Take a piece of paper, okay? And you put it, and it's just a sliver of paper. You put it on your side. Now try to hit that with a sniper rifle from, say, 400 yards away. Very difficult to do. Now take this piece of paper and stretch it out across a wall, okay? Stretch it out, say, an entire block, okay? And then raise it up an entire height to be of the size of a building. Now, can you tell me that it will be hard for an expert sniper to hit that piece of paper now that it's the size of a building versus a piece of paper who's on its side? I can tell you, you're not going to be able to hit the piece of paper on its side easily, okay? If you're shooting directly at it, because it's such a sliver, okay? Like, there's no way to easily hit that. Regardless of that metaphor, how useful it is or not. Basically, when you go to the past or the future, you're really stretching yourself out and exposing yourself to being shot over and over and over again by fear. Fear will get you when you spend too much of your time in the future or the past. So the better technique is to live in the present moment. And the best way I find to do this is to summon loving emotions. Now, I use a technique from Stuart Wilde, who's one of my favorite guys on this kind of work. And he has this technique of how you can send love to other people, whether they're actually going to receive it or not. But imagine as you walk past somebody, like click your fingers together and think love. Think love, love, love. And you can imagine sending love to these people. And this will allow your subconscious mind to treat you with more love in return. Because as we've been over in the past, your subconscious mind treats you how you treat others, your life, your surroundings, all that kind of stuff. So when you give love, and you're kind of like sending this loving emotion, then your subconscious mind is picking that up, and he's going to send you back a lot more love. And when you do that, you feel more centered in the present moment. You start to become more aware of all these things around you. You can use meditation to get in here, but I find this method to be easier. And as soon as you're in the present moment, things are just so much brighter, they're so much happier, and it's really hard to feel fear when you're centered in the present, because you really only feel fear when you're in the future or the past. Okay, so when you drift too far into those, thinking, okay, I need to do this by tomorrow, I need to get this prepped up for my classes, I need to write this, I need to make this video, I need to work on this. When you start thinking about all those things, fear is going to show up and say, oh, you don't have enough time for that, you're going to mess this up and this up and this up. But if you don't, then you have the full access of your subconscious mind really behind you. And that's what I would say nirvana is really about, is this kind of, I mean, I've never exactly reached that kind of state, but I'm working at it. And you can really, I'd say the big part is it's about the present moment. When you're centered in the present moment, life is so much more blissful. You have so much more access to ideas. You're so confident. You're very happy, because that's what love is. It's in the present. But as soon as you go to the future or the past, not visioneering, but just like thinking about the future or the past, fear can snipe you and really get you. That's about it for this video. Live in the present moment. Try out the technique I mentioned. I'll see you guys next time with the next video. So this has been Walt. I'll see you guys next time, next video. So stay tuned. I'll see you then.